Does this mean I'm gonna have to watch this show again?
Hello and welcome. My name is Witty G, and I talk about odd, obscure, and nostalgic cartoons on the internet, attempting to find out what made them special to begin with. And this episode feels like it fits into each one of these categories. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail and the title, we are returning to the wacky world of Grossology.
You're a dagger?
A series that explores the eccentric, crass, and disturbing subsections of science, all in an entertaining and educational way, using these teenage super spies who specialize in the disgusting as a medium for teaching the audience.
Look, I'm a victim of educational television.
The Archer siblings have been tasked with protecting their city from the supervillains that inhabit it, supposedly as their form of espionage community service. Yeah, they're dealing with stuff like this for free.
Don't be alarmed. I'm just here for your scab.
I mean, my scab.
And I thought fast food work was hard. The siblings deal with villains who usually base their terroristic ambitions on whatever gross niche they're obsessed with. The grossologists tend to get caught up in how wonderfully diverse and adaptive our natural world is.
I had no idea plants were so strong. It's amazing.
Don't you ever stop. We're about to be digested and you're still yammering about the miracles of nature!
Even admiring the weaponry these Gru-level supervillains are able to cobble together, all in the midst of peril. This time, we aren't discussing one of the big three recurring maniacs,
Motherfuck the big three. Nigga, it's just big me. Nigga, bum.
but a character that showed up for one episode early in the first season, then was never heard from again. These teenagers must have whooped her ass so bad, she couldn't bear to be seen on this show again. The reason this one-hit wonder is getting a full recap is because this chick is a certified freak. Which is a pretty hefty insult considering the main characters say and do stuff like this.
Totally snotless. Strange.
Strange. This from a guy probing my nose and liking it.
Hey, it's my thing. Impressive nose hairs, by the way.
I mean, this is something they do for fun.
Come on, Captain McCrawley.
Go, Filthy, go! Woohoo! Check it out. Mr. Filthy can collapse his body and squeeze through a crevice the thickness of a dime.
Been there, done that. Eat my dust, loser.
Miss Globin, however, is the gross, diabolical, emo version of the Tooth Fairy. And because teeth aren't edgy enough for her, she upped the insanity of the lore and steals scabs instead. That's right, you heard me, scabs.
What the fuck is this we watching?
The fairy spies on children while they're sleeping, hops into their bedroom, and steals parts of their bodies, leaving a quarter in return. And I'm gonna say, she only gets away with this so long cause she's a woman. If there was a man that watched you while you were sleeping, left gifts for you when you wake up, but took something of yours in the process, he'd be canceled and sent to prison on the spot.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Okay, maybe not. But Helenaglobin is on the prowl and looking for some new victims, and the school pageant seems like the perfect locale. The grossologists have to use all their annoying tips and tricks to find out how and why a deranged pageant winner became obsessed with scabs.
You grossologists are so annoying. You're always taking samples and solving mysteries and blah, blah, blah. And seriously, yellow, not your color.
So join me as we check out this episode, The Scab Fairy, alternatively titled, This Scab's For You, where we watch the psychological corruption of a beautiful mind into a grossed out revenge seeker.
Yeah, more weird stuff we'll figure out later.
And see if you could match her freak. We open up on this kid's bedroom. He doesn't get a name in the show, so let's say it's, Ben Stiller. Ben gets a surprise visit from the fairy who takes his scab, but she doesn't give him the cash in exchange. So she just pops up, robs the kid, then jets.
Hey, where's my money? She cheated me.
Ben Stiller is not pleased. We pan over to the Archer household where Ty tries to be normal and fails. Abnormality is far more interesting, so keep it up.
I just found out a sea star pushes its whole stomach out of its mouth to eat. Awesome, huh?
Uh-huh. That's one word for it.
However, Abby has some more breakfast-friendly news. She plans on joining the volleyball team. Her mom is very excited for her, like any parent should be. Her father, on the other hand, takes it up a notch. Bro smells opportunity, smells potential, smells front row seats to every professional volleyball game Abby will be a part of. But he also smells redemption. He hops onto the Abby Sports Pro bandwagon and offers to train her, attempting to turn her into the Michael Jordan of volleyball.
Since you've never played before, I could be your trainer.
Trainer?
Lofty ambitions, but having a secret career as a super spy might boost up her chances significantly. We get a fake out scene as a mysterious light and presence is felt in Abby's bedroom at this crazy hour of the night, or should I say day at this point. Luckily, it's just her dad, getting her out of bed before the sun has woken up to its own alarm clock. Why? For a workout, of course. The early bird catches the worm, and the early exerciser stops the demon.
Volleyball waits for no one.
During their practice session, Abby trips and falls, gaining her a pretty sweet scab.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
This is a quote. I would never describe them that way. Take a guess which character describes scabs this way, and don't forget your answer for later. But after that fall, her dad reminds her of the tale of the Scab Fairy.
You'll be getting a visit from the Scab Fairy soon. She'll come in the night, take your scab, and leave you some shiny coins.
I love that story. Not that I believe it. I'm not a little girl anymore, you know?
I know. Sometimes I forget. Now, go wash that arm! Soap and water means no infection!
Yeah, this isn't just another villain in their rogues gallery, but like, she is a renowned figure in this community's mythos, possibly more famous than the Tooth Fairy. Eat your heart out, The Rock. At the volleyball tryouts, Abby has to deal with the stuck-up bully mean girl, Paige, and her interchangeable goons. There is nothing behind those eyes. Paige mentions how she's leaving the tryouts early so she and her girls can attend the Miss Wonderful pageant. I don't know how well she'll do in a competition like that, but Miss Vindictive, Miss Horrible, Miss Worst Person to be around, she'll sweep. Abby doesn't believe Paige will have the skill to stay on the team without practicing, but Paige shows her who's wrong by spiking the ball into this random girl's face.
How will you make the team if you cut practice?
Nothing says teamwork like attacking potential members. Abby spots her brother from afar and wonders why his geeky ass is anywhere near a sporting event without it being a mandatory requirement. Turns out, he's here to spy, like recreational spy work, not the shit he gets to put on his resume.
Dad is making me take notes on the practice. I have to give him a full report on your progress tonight.
Dad really needs a hobby.
Then he geeks out about Abby's scab, giving us a little info about the science behind this phenomenon.
Hey, sweet scab.
Only a grossologist would use sweet and scab together.
Did you guess it would be Ty? If you did, well done.
Yep, the human body sure has an awesome defense system. You break the skin and blood cells called platelets stick together to form a clot to stop the bleeding.
And the clot is held together with thread-like stuff called fibrin.
Give me a sample.
No way! Get your own scab.
Scab, huh?
However, Ty isn't the only recreational spy on patrol. A woman lurking in the bleachers of the local high school spies Abby, but more specifically, her scab.
She has such a lovely scab, but not for long.
You see what I mean by certified freak, right? Who does this without being registered as a
certified pedophile?
Anyway, she crashes the tryouts.
Don't be alarmed. I'm just here for your scab.
I mean, my scab.
Run that goofy ass noise again. That's classic. She steals Abby's scab, then Abby says,
Hey, I worked hard for that scab.
Well, your platelets did. Then this crazy woman says,
Finders keepers, kid.
You mean you found the body part that Abby was actively using? That's such a bad defense that Gary the Rat would use it and it would actually work. It's like a mugger taking your wallet and telling you they didn't steal it. They found it in your pocket. And then taking your home and your children and your partner because they found them inside. Now you're homeless and alone. This is just like that. These situations are a one-to-one comparison. Sorry, this scene gets weirder because during the robbery, Ty says this.
I had dibs on that.
No, sir. You cannot stake a claim on your sister's scabs or other weird body parts. I feel like I'm always telling Ty stuff like this. And Ty says the second worst line so far.
Abby Archer, the gagless wonder.
Do not talk about your sister that way, young man. Do not. Scab Lady escapes, and we find out that this stylish magenta outfit is not made of a rayon cotton and polyester blend, but instead...
Scabs.
Nigga, what?
If I didn't know any better, I'd say that flying freak was... the Scab Fairy.
In the laboratory, Lab Rat gives us the down low about the process of scabbing. Whoops, wrong one.
Under any scab, new skin cells are being made to repair the torn skin. Damaged blood vessels are fixed, and white blood cells attack any germs that may have gotten in.
Finally, a new layer of skin is made. The scab falls off and new skin.
Picking a scab can rip the skin again, and it may take longer to heal.
He does this while the two siblings debate about whether this stranger is the fairy of legend or just
another twisted supervillain.
Alright, here's another tier of freakitude. That suit of hers is not only made of scabs, but each scab is from a different individual.
As for the scabs you got from her costume, DNA scans confirm that each scab came from a different person.
Do you know how much work you would have to do to get all of those? And then fashion them into a stylish supervillain fit and not throw up? Notoriously, even the original creator of this series struggled to notate certain topics in her books because it disgusted her so much.
When I learned about the northern native tribe where the moms suck the snot out of their babies' noses and spit on the ground, I had to leave my computer to stop gagging and then come back and write about it.
But I don't even think she could match this lady's freak. Back at the crib, Abby complains to her mom about her dad's rigorous training routine, and we get probably the funniest lines of the episode.
The truth is, he never made the volleyball team. This means a lot to him.
Great. So Dad's living his dream through me.
Uh-huh. That's what parents do, dear.
He's trying to turn Abby into the Son Goku of high school volleyball. Ty tracks our villain to the skate park where she's stealing scabs and calling teenage boys pretty.
This won't hurt a bit, pretty boy.
I hate pretty!
Where the hell is Chris Hansenberg? Ty rightfully gives chase. Meanwhile, Abby is on professional athletic training duty. The costume change sequence even gets interrupted.
Let's gear up.
There's my budding volleyball star. Come on, it's training time!
Which is a cool touch, and emphasizes how Abby's two lives are clashing and halting her progress on the case. Back at the skate park, Ty thinks he can just Tony Hawk his way through the situation and wipes out big time, injuring himself.
Uh-oh. Not good! Ow!
The fairy Phony, as Ty has renamed her, uses her wand to take the scab he just earned in his wipeout. Ty also manages to get her to spill what the big super evil plan is.
What do you want with all these scabs anyway, Scab Fakey?
They fuel my scabifier. More scabs, more power. I've gathered enough for my master plan.
Too bad you won't be around to see it!
Side note, I adore it when she goes from pageant voice to creepy goblin woman. That's a level of freak I can match. I know she got a few of y'all.
Rock hard!
Before bouncing, she zaps Ty and causes the scab stalagmite to build up around his legs.
Now it's time to clip your wings. What the?
Oh, aren't they beautiful?
This is the type of crap that only Grossology could get away with. Cause gosh, this is gross.
This won't hurt.
But it will be gross!
And you'll never guess how he gets rid of this. No, it ain't Abby coming to save him either. She's too busy becoming the Tamika Catchings of local high school volleyball. The clever escape from this death trap. Alright, well, it's not much death in this trap actually. But the kryptonite to this stagnation trap is just peel it off.
Why don't you just pick them?
Yup, it's just that simple.
We're never supposed to pick scabs. It can lead to infection and scarring and...
But they're not your scabs, remember?
Oh yeah.
If this is indicative of the way to beat her, this might be the easiest villain they've ever faced. Back in the lab, we finally find out who's behind the Scab King, a former beauty pageant winner with a degree in immunology and folklore. The stories and mythos created by a community, not the album. Also, what a combo. She tried balancing out those tough clinical science classes with fantasy and lore from multiple cultures. And look how she ended up, deranged and freaky. Although some people like their doctors like that.
I think we found our girl.
That's her! Without the goofy costume. She isn't the Scab Fairy.
There is no such thing.
Don't call the Scab Fairy a thing, even if she doesn't exist.
Moving on, it says her name is Helenaglobin. She has degrees in immunology and folklore, and she was a beauty pageant star.
Let's see. Apparently one day before a pageant, she accidentally cut herself and got a tiny scab. Helena freaked out and disappeared.
Nobody's seen her, until now.
So she's back and on a scabby mission.
So one scab and she just lost it? Had she never gotten a cut before? The episode doesn't delve into this enough, in my opinion. Cause she was a pageant winner, but who knows if she always won these pageants she attended. A long life of losing those things can be a lot of stress for a kid, especially if they have those stereotypical pageant parents. Losing can literally feel like you're not enough on so many different levels. It reduces traits like wonderful to basic empty talking points, and appearances that conform to outrageous conventional beauty standards while belittling those who don't provide that. Growing up in those conditions could have been an interesting basis for a villain. Let me know your take on this character's backstory in the comments. It's one line from the villain monologue that stands out to Ty and Abby about the reclusive pageant winner's whereabouts.
Her science background would have helped her develop all that scab weaponry.
And her degree in folklore must have led her to adopt the identity of the Scab Fairy.
Did she say anything when she attacked you?
Just typical evil villain babble. I rule, you stink, blah, blah, blah. Wait, she did say she wanted revenge on all the beautiful people.
Beautiful people. The Miss Wonderful Beauty pageant is tonight.
Before heading to the event, Lab Rat gives them some bat saliva.
It's vampire bat saliva.
Okay.
Yeah, why do they need this, bruh? Don't tell me you have a secret freaky side you just now exposing to your team.
Contains natural chemicals that stop scabs from forming.
Right! When a bat bites, the tap stays open and it can really chow down.
Crisis averted.
How did you get so much bat spit anyway?
Let them cook.
Let's just say it was tricky.
Okay, now I'm worried again. At the event, Homegirl's monologuing to herself right above the soon-to-be victims. Does no one see her crazy ass? Or hear her? Or see her drop shadow on the ground?
But how long will your beauty last?
Not long. Soon you'll be as hideously scabby as me.
So it seems she's doing this because of that one incident, and now just plans to ruin the lives of conventionally attractive people forever.
Okay.
Usually, there's some nuance to the villains in this show. That's what makes them appealing. Like Fartor or Kid Rot, but this lady is just cartoonishly evil after one bad day. She just went full Joker mode. The pageant continues, and up next is Paige.
As Miss Wonderful, I would try to bring peace, joy, and wonderfulness to everyone, everywhere. Thank you.
Where have I heard this before?
That U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and...
Let's see what one of the judges has to say.
Good answer. Short, concise, and sappy.
Right before Helena can cause some chaos to the duo pop-up, but they're not quick enough to save Paige, or the other girls from getting scabbed. Then we get to see a pretty gnarly power from this retired pageant queen scepter.
Amazing! Not injuries, Abby. Microscopic breaks in the skin. Daily life damages her skin constantly. Simple things like getting dressed or diving for cover.
So she's literally using microscopic injuries to cause mass scabbing. But her intention isn't to hurt these girls physically. No, the part that stings the most is the damage you take to your self-esteem.
And it doesn't hurt a bit.
Except when you look in a mirror.
She's not going for physical scars, she's going for mental ones. The duo split, with Ty running to get the bat saliva, while Abby distracts the misunderstood person.
I'm not a bad person. I'm just misunderstood.
We get to see that all the training Abby's been doing actually had some amazing impacts on her evasion skills. She's officially the Brenda Castillo of local, rural, ladies' high school volleyball.
I guess Dad's drills are paying off!
Ty gets the saliva, and just like that, the years of Helena's hard work in the lab are futile. Since this stuff is basically like the gold star in Mario for the siblings. With the day saved, we pan over to Abby's room where an ominous light shines in her face briefly, and she's left with a quarter. Could it be the Scab Fairy? I hope not, because the very thought of that is just... Is it just me, or was this episode kind of underwhelming? Don't get me wrong, it was fascinating from a science perspective and embodied the essence of what Grossology is about.
Whoa, kids love gross stuff. I want to teach them science, so I'll just invent a new science and I'll call it Grossology. The second part is that children, like all humans, like to play with emotions, and human beings are the one animal that experiences disgust. So you can have that kind of joy in the emotional response. Ew, I get to feel disgusted. And then most gross stuff, or many things I write about in my Grossology books, are commonplace. The things that occur in your daily life. Pooping and peeing, barfing, zits. Nobody wants to talk about it.
With Jessica Holmes' voice work being one of the best parts of this episode.
Finders keepers, kid.
But I feel like we were kind of cheated, duped, scabbed. Helenaglobin is a pageant queen who studied both immunology and folklore, and before going to participate in her next pageant, she cut herself and got a scab. It apparently wasn't the blood or the wound that scared her out of her normal life, but it was the scab that formed afterwards. We also have no idea where the cut was, or how bad it was. But regardless, this breaks her, forces her out of her career, out of her studies, out of family life, out of her relationships. She just vanishes from the public eye for God knows how long, until she starts collecting scabs, using her knowledge of immunology to create this suit, and build a character based on the mythos of this small city about a Scab Fairy.
Hey, that's a bullshit!
Hold up, why didn't we see this myth? They kind of broke this rule when they could have done this. I wish they would have focused more on the myth and what it means to people, because it seems like people of different age groups believe in this or pass it down as a family story, similar to the story of Santa Claus. Delving more into the folklore, especially from a visual standpoint, could have allowed Helena to take advantage of that persona even more, perhaps mimicking the suit of the fairy in the stories, speaking in the same way the fairy would, or at least how other storytellers have reenacted the fairy's voice over time, switching from kind and gentle to snarly and sinister, or how the Scab Fairy gets power from the items she collects. These are all things that do happen in the show. It just boggles my mind why there wasn't a bigger focus on the connection between myths and the communities that create them, when they could have been tied together more seamlessly. It also would have given more depth to this character that really needs some. None of the backstory for Helena is shown. It's all told to us, which is so boring.
Apparently one day before a pageant, she accidentally cut herself and got a tiny scab.
You've got to move past the sadness in your life.
And doesn't do these horrific instances justice. Can you imagine if Fartor's backstory was just talked about? You wouldn't nearly get how awful it was to be in that position if it was delivered this way.
The years of torment changed me. My lungs adapted to the poisonous emissions of my brother's bowels. Like a fish out of water, clean air is poison to me. The years of torment changed me. My lungs adapted to the poisonous emissions of my brother's bowels. Like a fish out of water, clean air is poison to me.
And visualization can help the audience better understand and sympathize with how he became the monster he is in the current day. The history doesn't excuse their actions, but it does give context and answers an important question in stories. How? Because Helena's story leaves me with a lot of questions that would have been cool to have answers to. What was her family like? Did they get her into pageants? Or was this all Helena? Why did she enjoy them? She looks back on them with fondness, but is it just because she wasn't scabbed up before then?
You're a worthy fool. It's just like my pageant days, but that's over now.
Welcome to my scabby world!
How did she Iron Man her way into a super suit? I can suspend my disbelief, I just want to know. Long story short, I feel like she was drastically underused and should have come back with some better powers and more history. Speaking of, her whole plan is to make beautiful people ugly and learn to have to deal with that and suffer while trying. So why didn't we see the impact of that till the very end? That was the only time she tried to use her powers this way. I feel like she should have scabbed Ty or Abby earlier on, so we'd see how this affects their self-esteem, which is the whole point of Helena's plan. The last thing, the B-plot was kind of meh. It barely tied into the main story other than for the initial reaction and Abby getting a boost to all her base stats, especially agility.
Wanna see some real speed, bitch? I'll show you some real speed.
It's alright. B-plots be like that sometime. Detached and subpar. Like an absentee father figure. Overall, I love the concept of this, and it did teach me about how this human function works so seamlessly. It created a fascinating character that takes advantage of the process in a malicious way, mostly in a disgusting way. Scabbed by a situation in her past that should have at least been one of the best days of her life. I just wish the execution for this episode was a little bit better. And Scab Stalagmite has to be one of the craziest things I've ever said on the internet. Thank you for watching this far, it means a lot. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and the villain. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Be happy, be healthy, and do not pick your scabs. Do not put your kids in pageants, or call dibs on your siblings or anyone else's scabs. And don't steal people's homes and families through the very flawed finders keepers clause. There's a lot more don'ts. I could go on, but we'll stop there. I've been Woody G, and see you later.